Okay, so today we're going to go over the trigger group assembly for the Mossberg 715T. Also the same for the Mossberg 702 Plankster. Pretty much, I took this gun apart, including the trigger group, and it took me a good 2 hours to figure out how to put it back together. Some of you out there have had this issue, and there's no YouTube video on it. It seems like everybody that took those apart, once they got back together, they said, screw this, I'm not taking it apart again. And some of us haven't put it back together yet. So today, I'm going to do a video on how to reassemble this, so that in the future, when somebody takes theirs apart, they'll be able to go back and look at this and say, hey, I'm glad somebody made this video. So, I'm just going to disassemble this, pull the trigger grip apart, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so this is the internal, basically the actual gun of the model 715T. It's almost the exact same as the 702 Plankster. So, we'll go ahead and finish taking this apart. Alright, so this is the basic trigger group assembled, and it's pretty simple disassembly. Got one screw, takes the guide off right there. These two pins basically release the hammer, and once you get this out, all that's left is the trigger, and that's the tricky part that gets everybody. Once you actually get the trigger taken apart, it seems to just come right on out, and it makes no sense how to put it back together when you're looking at it. So that's why I'm making this video, because I was dumbfounded at first, and a lot of people are. So I'm actually going through the process of taking this back apart and reliving the nightmare of putting it together, for the assistance of anybody else that has this issue. So like always, when you take something apart, make sure you look real good to see exactly what it looked like and the dimensions. I mean, you can get a good idea of how it's supposed to look on the inside. So, alright, we're going to take these two pins out, take the hammer out, and then this one pin right here, which all these pins are pretty much very well seized in the way they design them. They're designed to really not come apart, but people tend to do it anyways. I know I did. So we'll get these two out, then we'll take this one out. It's kind of hard to do this and hold my phone at the same time, so that's why I have to pause and unpause it. But pretty much what I am going to do is take these out, remove this, which is spring loaded, and then I'll show you what it looks like before I take this out. Alright, it's almost all the way stripped down to just the trigger. So, if you take a good look at it, the trigger itself actually sits down on top of what appears to be the release for the hammer. And I'm sorry if I'm not using proper terms here. I'm just, I just kind of learned how to take these apart and put them back together on my own. But for anybody out there that knows what these parts are, this way you can get a good look at them. And, see maybe exactly how they go together. Pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to put this part where I'm pointing, it's going to go in first. Once we take it apart, it's going to go back in first with the spring like double folded backwards. And then what we're going to do is just use one of the pins and just barely put it halfway in, just enough to catch it so it holds it in, and then we set the trigger on top of it and pushing it down here until it's lined up right, and then shove the pin all the way through and catching the trigger. That is the best way I figured out how to do it. I don't know if there's another way, but that's the way I done it, and it took me 2 hours to figure out that. And then once I figured it out, it was very simple. So we'll give it a try. Alright, here we go. This is such a pain, by the way, so just be really happy that I decided to do this to help out anybody. And this is basically the most pain part is this little pin, these pins that hold these together like to keep falling out. See, like that one's already halfway out. And then, so while you're trying to put it together, it likes to keep falling. Pretty much how this goes is this is going to go into the frame just like this, with this spring folded back, squished like that, and it sits in there. And then once that sets in, this kind of sets on top of it. And so that's hard to do. I'm trying to get where we're going to hold my phone up, so I don't have a camera to do this with. Okay, you kind of see now. This goes into the frame like this, and then this is going to sit in on top of it. And then you have to force this down until these two holes align into the frame. So, let the fun begin. Now, I said the best part about this is trying to do this while having my phone record, because I don't have a decent camera. So, alright, here we go. You got your frame. This is the part I was telling about that rocks, and it's gonna go straight down into here. And sorry, the phone's kind of shaky. I had to get my daughter to hold it while I do this. So you just slide it in, the spring facing backwards. Should I get a good view on it? The spring is going to go backwards, like so. And just slide it in there, and just try to make sure the spring remains backwards, because what that's doing is it's giving it its tension, so that it stays forwards. And then when you pull your trigger, it rocks up, releasing the hammer. So, here comes the hard part. And like I said, what you want to do is have this pin right here, so as soon as you get it lined up, you can knock that pin in just a little bit to catch this. Now, this is a really pain in the butt to do, so I'm just going to give you the guidelines. So I'm gonna do this and then show you how I have it just a little bit. Alright, as you can see, I was able to kind of force it down to shove the pin through just to catch it. And what I'm going to do is back the pin up just to where it catches the frame, the edge of the piece, but doesn't actually protrude all the way through, because we have to set the trigger down in it now. And then we'll shove the pin all the way through. But if you see that little dot right there, that little round raise in the piece, is actually it's almost like the center point. It's hard to explain. It kind of gives you balance. So if you take your screwdriver while you're working on this, and you need to force it down in order for you to line up and push that pin through, just take your screwdriver and set it right. Sorry, trying to get on. You set it right on that, and that gives you the ability to push down on it. So you can push it down in order to get it to line up. But just like I said, I found out after all the work I was doing on this thing that just pushing down on that and having the spring in there the correct way, it kind of glided right down, and it took me forever to figure that out. But like I said, make sure your spring, see that's the top of that part, your spring is like this. So this is that top part with that little bend in it right there. And then the other part is a little more to the side and it don't have that bend. That spring needs to be turned like this. And it's going to compress when you push it down. That's why all the tension comes from when you're trying to put this thing back together. So now that we got that, and you found, and I've showed you the little pivot point to push down right here, and the way the spring is supposed to be, I'm just gonna back this up just a hair, literally, just until it barely holds on. Till it barely holds on to that frame. Just enough for me to set the trigger in. Now, what you do with the trigger is this sets down into it. And it's kind of hard because the trigger, when it sets down, is going to try to make the frame, is it such a tight fit, it's going to try to twist a little bit, the little piece. So you have to kind of like fit it down in there and then twist the piece back down in order for the hole to align. But like I said, I'm not a professional gunsmith. I'm just trying to show y'all the easiest way I found out how to do this. So I'm going to have to pause it again and put this pin back in the stupid trigger where it came apart again. And then I'm going to put it the rest of the way together and show you, kind of how I did it. Okay, so I got it back together. Like I said, the trigger sat right in on top. Make sure that that front part of the trigger actually sets on top of the spring and the front edge of that piece. And when you squeeze it, it just pushes down on it. Also raises the back of it. But the trick is really just once you get that piece down, that's easy. Took forever to figure out, but once you get that piece down, that's pretty easy. And then just getting the trigger in and lining up the hole and then shoving the pin the rest of the way through. But like I said, this isn't the best video. It's my first attempt on it. So, but I hope it helps because honestly, so many people like me just took it apart and had no clue on how it went back together. Because it usually just came apart and then flew into pieces. Okay, so I've had some requests to go ahead and show how to finish the trigger assembly on this. It's really not hard at all. I mean, it's just these two pins and the hammer and the spring. Originally I just done this one because this was the real pain in the butt. So I'll go ahead and disassemble this real quick and show you how I put it back together. Yes, once again, just like earlier in the video, I don't have a tripod or anything, so I have to do this with my phone. So stand by. Okay, so sorry about the shaking. I believe where we left off, we had just finished the lower trigger assembly, and as you can see, it's in working order, which this right here is what releases the hammer. So anyways, so 2 pinholes, hammer, spring. See if I can efficiently do this with one hand. So, pretty easy. The hammer has to be facing like this. That way, when you rock the trigger down, it will go down, releasing this, allowing it to spin up. and so far, and you know, continue the chain of awesomeness that is shooting. But anyways, sorry, I just got off work. I'm kind of tired trying to do this. This goes on like this, and essentially this is going to fit in that little hole right there. See, this end is kind of squared, so once you compress the spring and the tip goes out, it goes into that hole like this. And then you want to put the pin in this hole right here, holding this in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and be right back. Okay, so once you line it up, push this pin through and then push this pin through. This basically just stops the hammer from going so far that you really don't need to go any further. So once you knock those through, you know, you just straighten these out. You use your hammer or whatever. I gotta go get it. I don't have it right now, but I'm gonna try. I can usually push these in. That's pretty much it, and I guess I'll go ahead and just show you how to slide it back in here the easy way. I don't know, I've seen some YouTube videos where people do it the hard way, but I'll show you the way I found out is the easiest. So, stand by. Okay, so I got those knocked in. So, of course, the easy way to find out if this is all working properly, slide the hammer back. It should lock in. Safety. Trigger shouldn't work. Undo the safety. Hold the trigger. Release the hammer forwards. Don't let go of your trigger. Pull it back. See if it resets. Let go of the trigger. Squeeze it again. Yep. Everything works fine. There we go. That's pretty much it for the lower half. So to go in here, it's very simple. Make sure your hammer's back. What you can do is, hold on. This locks. Of course, you know that, how you lock the slide back and able to pull your clip out. So you can, I'm just going to go from scratch for you. Comes out. Okay, so from scratch, make sure the buffer goes into the hole it's supposed to. Kind of lay it down flat like that. Take it like this. Okay, that's easy. Now, just kind of lift that up like that. This slides in here, and it locks in. Slide it all the way back, and lock it in. Really simple. Okay, now, take your lower receiver, and the trick is to set this because you want this and everything to slide in here. So you take it, go forwards with it, pull back on that, make sure this sets in like this, and then pull back, drop it down. So you see it set right down in there. Okay, you can take it, slide your pins in, and this should work. I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so everything worked out. Like I said, slid the pins in, no problem. Function test. works. And that's pretty much it. And this, I have the 715T, but I mean, from what I've seen, the pictures and everything is the exact same as the 702, and maybe some other similar models. But this is and like I said, this is the 702 without different, body parts. It just goes into the plastic of the 715 tactical. But like I said, maybe when I get a little more time and some better equipment, I'll do a really good professional video on this. But I'm just hoping that this will help out whoever gets stuck on this really confusing pain in the ass trigger like I did. So hope it helps, and have a good day.